Well, good morning, everybody. You're probably wondering, first of all, about the appearance. I'm really just making a fashion statement point to his dudeness about the fact that if you wear a black shirt and a cozy wrecking crew tie, any kind of white tie, it does remind people, certainly me, of how did that famous song go? What's the matter you? Hey, why you look so bad? It's not so sad, it's a nicer place. Ah, shut up your face. I'm sure all of you remember that classic. But anyway, I thought I would put on my, as you can see, my unique wrecking crew tie. It's a design that's different to his dudeness's tie. Of course, within the Making a Murderer community, there are one or two people who prefer anonymity, and of course his dudeness is one of those. He goes by the name, obviously, of Ericozy, but everybody now knows of him as the Dude. That comes, of course, from the Coen brothers film The Big Lebowski. Ericozy is the Dude. His sidekick, of course, is Walter. That, of course, is Travis. And they rather cruelly call me Donnie and hurl abuse in my direction. But I won't shut up, as they keep asking me to do. I will keep going. But, of course, if anybody wanted to meet the Dude, they need only have come to the rally in Manitowoc, and they could have met him personally, spoke to him. So he's not that really anonymous. And if you want to send him something in the post, then he will give you a postal address that will get stuff to him. Let's say he's just a little bit cautious about revealing true details about himself, particularly the name. I do know his full name. If I had that name, I would probably call myself something else as well. Okay. I'm only joking, dude. I'm only joking. But no, I have seen your passport. I'm one of the very, very few people that have actually seen his passport. What a struggle that was to get hold of a passport, eh? You would have thought, you would not have believed how difficult it is to get a passport. Anyway, and of course, for anybody that was in Australia for the week that we were there, hopefully by now you've recovered. What a time we had. We did meet a lot of supporters, obviously, at the in particular outside the Enmore and inside the Enmore pub and the Enmore Theatre, and inside and then outside it and in the foyer when we got moved out. And then we went to Melbourne and we met a whole load of new people there. And even the Dude managed to get a photograph with his hero, that's Steve Drizzen. In fact, as I've mentioned before, it was a long, long way to go to present Steve Drizzen with a T-shirt, but finally he got it done. So that was worth it. That was one of the big boxes ticked off. Okay, so as I say, the other way you can get in touch with and meet up with the Dude is because of his work. He sometimes has to go off to various conventions. I can't remember whether it was Ohio or Utah or Idaho or something like that. He went somewhere last year, I think it was, and there were big mountains in the background. Some of them even snow covered that he had to fly to, and he met up with. I'm sure he met up with one or two supporters while he was out there. And I know that he's met up with supporters that have been, he sometimes goes to the, I believe it's the airport at Los Angeles, LAX, I believe it's called, and occasionally meets up with supporters or they go somewhere nearby. So look, although he enjoys his anonymity, he's not really that anonymous at all. And of course, another one that springs to mind, it was great, wasn't it, that when we started it was great that when we started the Mammothon way back in April, first up, the Dude opened it because it was his idea. In fact, it wasn't his idea. I think it was Tracy's idea. It was certainly one of the ladies' idea. And it was his idea, brilliant idea, to extend it from 24 hours to 48 hours. But as you'll remember, the very first person to come on and chat with the dude was, of course, TikTok Manitwok. So let's move on to I've got two things I want to run through today, which I'll get to the second thing in a minute. Won't keep you too long. And hi, Bron. Charles Darwin. Hands up, all those that have seen comments by Charles Darwin. He comments incessantly on all my videos. He's not disrespectful. He's reasonably polite. He often comes from it, interestingly there, from the point of view of you should, broaden your horizons, open up your perspective, see things from another point of view. As you probably know, I've done on consecutive days, I think, hi Jane, I have done in 5 consecutive days 5 videos about Ken Kratz. And guess how many comments? Guess how many comments I've had from Charles Darwin? Exactly. What's less than 1? I have checked through. There is not a single comment by Charles Darwin. That speaks volumes to me. I think in future, if any of us ever come across a comment by Charles Darwin, we should introduce ourselves and say, "Hi Ken, it's nice to see you adding an opinion. We don't think you're quite right, but I can't see any other reason why Charles Darwin has not commented at all on any of the videos that I've done about Ken Kratz." Obviously, I'm already engaging in a conversation with him through Messenger. So why would he need to comment on the videos? But also, nothing at all. Yeah, probably, yeah. He probably has had to change his username because he's been found out. And if it's not Charles, and if Charles Darwin is not Ken Kratz, then he has to be somebody very, very close to him, because he's not said a single word about anything that I've posted in any of those videos. Again, that just speaks volumes, because it just shows that they have got nothing at all to defend themselves with. Anyway, the main purpose of the presentation today was the fact that, as you probably know, just over a week ago, I put a video on YouTube. I think we got to about 5 views, and then I get the message from YouTube to say that your video has been blocked because of copyright issues. Because what I had done is, as with a lot of other stuff, and maybe it was the fact that it was a 4-minute long video, but when I've used little clips of, I just hold my phone or put it on a stand in front of the TV, press record the little bit of TV, and then present that. So because it was 4 minutes, I suspect that is the reason why they have blocked it, because it was just too much. I was just pushing my luck a bit when it came to that. Excuse me. At least I assume that's what it was. As I say, copyright issue. So your video is blocked. And I had meant to, the very next day, I had meant to do something about it and say, look, here's what the video is about. But it's taken me at least a week to get to it because of all the videos about Ken Kratz. So the blocked portion that you might want to go in, because you can go straight to it now, because I'll give you the times. Season 2, episode 3 deals with, probably for me, the most important aspect of all of this, because if Stephen and Brendan are guilty of a crime, obviously you have to have a victim, and there's a lot of speculation about that. Although I suspect that at the moment the lawyers would not want to go down even considering the possibility that there is some sort of shenanigans going on there. Okay, but one of the things you've got to have if you've got somebody who's committed a crime, you have to have a crime scene. And of course, that portion of the video of Making a Murderer, season 2, episode 3, starting at the 21-minute 20 mark and going on till the 29:45 minutes. That's the stage. So it's like 8 minutes 25 seconds. Well, I did a 4-minute segment of that where Kathleen Zellner is talking to the guy that's presented as being the world authority on burning human bodies, Dr. John DeHaan. And clearly, I'll say that again. Season 2, episode 3, and it's from the 21:20 to the 29:45. Well, I don't know about Charles Darwin being Thomas Hence. Me and Thomas actually used to get on quite well. And of course, the one main difference between Charles Darwin and Thomas Hence is that Thomas Hence is a keen supporter of Brendan, whereas Charles Darwin is not a supporter of either Stephen or Brendan. So I'm not sure about that one. But anyway, the two doctors are Dr. John DeHaan and Dr. Stephen Symes, although, of course, we get mention of the fact that Stephen Symes was at one point a student of John DeHaan. Anyway, the pair of them are called in by Kathleen Zellner. And I think, it is one of these things that, we can't, with hindsight, we can say that things should have been differently. There should have been more of an expert during the trial, because we'll have a look at what some of the things that were mentioned during the trial. Because there was nothing from a sort of forensics expert point of view from the defense to say there couldn't have been a fire that consumed this body. In fact, one of the things that I'm sure you've noticed this as well. You often get the guild to say, well, she was definitely burnt there. There was bones, bone fragments intertwined with wire from the tires, the steel belts of the tires. And I don't know about you, but I always got the impression that what they're trying to do, a bit like the whopping great fire that they had. We've got Ken Pratt's talking about a whopping great fire. We've got Scott Taddick talking about, the flames were about 8 to 10 over the height of the garage. Yeah, possibly 10 feet higher. Yeah, whopping great big fire. And the whole idea is to, by talking about the bones being intertwined with the steel wires, that I always took as meaning what they're trying to do is they're trying to suggest somehow that the steel had melted, and some of the melted steel was on the bone fragments. There had been this the melted steel had stuck to the bone. There'd been some sort of fusion because of the heat of the metal and the bones. This whole idea of intertwining. And yet, when we actually look at Rodney Peavy-Toes is the guy from the Department of Criminal Investigation, DCI. He comes along to the scene. Now, John Ertl has already done his sifting equipment on the main parts of the fragments that were found and that were scooped up apparently, and he came along with his sifting equipment to sort out the larger pieces of the cremains that we see in the pizza box. Peavy-Toe is the fellow who comes along, and he actually he's a genuine sort of investigator. He tries to do a really good job. I think he does do a pretty good job. Again, though, he immediately wants people to set up a grid search of the area around the burn pit to see if there's any other stuff. He does it meticulously in order to not to do any damage. It's him and the other guy that actually take the only photographs that we've got of the place. Sorry, nearly swore then. And it's him, and it's during his testimony that we hear about bone fragments. And he literally found hundreds of bone fragments, but they were tiny, as he describes them as being like half the size of a human nail, a fingernail, half fragments of that size in if you like the bottom of the burn pit, not intertwined with the sort of embedded in the steel wires, not fused with them. No. During testimony, we go through 3 scenarios. Scenario number 1 was, well, could the body have been burnt on top of the tire? Could the body have been put on top of a tire set alight, burn body? And PV says, yeah, well, that's one possibility. Of course, another possibility is that the tires had already been burnt, and simply the body burnt on top of that. Would that produce the bones in with the tires? Yes. Another one, of course, I'm sure that they meant to mention this, but it could have been the other way around. Fresh tires on the above the body, and then burnt. Who knows? Although that would suggest the heat sort of evaporating out. I think they probably wanted some sort of tires on underneath, body on top, burn body. Another one that he concedes is a possibility is that the cremains were simply thrown onto the burnt meshes of tires. There is absolutely no way of knowing how all the remains got there. But what's very interesting, and I'm not going to keep you much longer, if you watch that bit of Making a Murderer, John DeHaan is quite specific and says that there is no way that any human body was burnt on that burn pit. For one thing, they say about the fact that the amount of fuel needed would be prohibitive. Secondly, they talk about this brown black goo that would have been created. And this, of course, is interesting because we do get a little bit of testimony from PV who talks about the fact that there was like a black caked-on substance on the, at the sort of at the bottom of the burn pit, which clearly had come from the burning of, well, various items of rubbish that were burnt there, including, of course, you get a little bit of the foam rubber from the seat would have caused residue, but particularly the tires. And what they did was they actually got that bobcat thing, and they actually excavated the whole of the burn pit to find anything else that they might have found. No mention whatsoever of any black, brown, gooey substance. Oh, hi there, Roll. And let's see who else is here. Martha and Clive and Marianne. Yep, excellent. Okie dokie. As I say, sorry to keep you, wake you up in the morning like this. As I say, I don't think I will be doing the mafia look again. That was just a a little Mickey take of Mr. Ericosi. No, I think that's all for today. Now, don't quote me on this. I did see mention of the dude possibly wanting to do a live chat Friday, but of course that really doesn't tell us a lot, because his sort of Friday evening could be midnight, 1, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock UK time, 4 o'clock. So anyway, just ignore that. That's I don't know who that is, but the phone keeps going, and I never bother to answer it. It'll be for the missus. Anyway, so anyway, I'm going to say cheerio for now, and maybe if the dude is, if the dude is going to do a video, yeah, well, no, I don't think it does, because people would confuse me with the dude, wouldn't they? You know, couldn't possibly have that happening. Especially if I get rid of the glasses. So yeah, watch out. There might be a video, a live chat coming up soon, sometime soon, from the dude. But yeah, in the meantime, if you come across Charles Darwin, certainly if I come across him again, unless, as you say, he's changed his username, but if I come across him again, it'll certainly be, hiya Ken, how you doing? Nice of you to drop me a note. As I say, 5 videos talking about Ken Kratz, and not a single comment from Charles Darwin, who just, like, literally a few days earlier, we'd been involved in quite a long discussion about whatever it was. I think that once again it was to do with the bones. I mean, like I said, it's to have a crime, you need a crime scene. It just does not make a crime scene. As the experts would say, there is no way a body was burnt there. So, you know, state of Wisconsin, you've got 2 people in prison. You don't have a crime scene. What are you going to do about it now? It's time you had. Well, obviously, the simple thing to do would simply be to release Stephen Brendan and arrest those that were involved in the investigation. Obviously, that might not happen quite as easily as that, but you know, we need the district court now, the Court of Appeals of District 2, to look into this properly now, which I think they have done. Apparently, it's been Judge Paul Riley who has so far been the one that's looked at the case, because he's the one that's designated these cases, and I believe I'm right in saying that if they were to have some sort of hearing about this, then all 4 judges would be involved, which is interesting because, of course, one of them is Brian Hagedorn, but he beat Lisa Neubauer to the Supreme Court. And those of you who know who Chad Keller and Juan Tescrew are, you will know perfectly well that Juan has actually met Brian Hagedorn, who seems very sympathetic to the farce of Stephen Brendan's convictions. Lisa Neubauer was, as I say, the lady that was beat. So she would be one of the judges, along with Paul Riley, who's the guy that's actually remanded it back to Judge Flowers twice. You know, so he seems to be pretty reasonable. The 4th judge, because of course one of them is Hagedorn, that's moved to this. Well, I don't know if he's moved to the Supreme Court yet, but he's going to. So you've got, let's start again. Hagedorn, that's going to the Supreme Court. You've got Lisa Neubauer, who he beat in the election. You've got Riley, who so far has seemed to have done exactly what a judge should do, really showing Angela exactly, you know, how you're meant to do this. You know, when you've got stuff like this, Zellner pointing out that DeHaan and Symes are saying there's no way a body was burnt there. It's not her job to go against her, you know, it's not Angela's job to go against Kathleen Zellner's experts. Okay, the 4th member of the District 2. District 2 is for obviously Manitowoc, down as far as Milwaukee, so taking in Sheboygan, that sort of area. The fourth judge is Mark Gundrum. Tracy, basically a lawyer, suggests that he would probably remove himself from the case, but I don't see why he should. It's not as if the other judges haven't had dealings with Stephen Avery. And what was interesting was probably about a year ago, I did a video where I incorporated the comments by Mark Gundrum, you might remember, to do with the fact that he said at the time of Stephen's arrest, whilst you may want to, from a moral point of view, give Steve the benefit of the doubt, or sort of, from a sort of personal point of view, you want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. I think he said morally it's impossible to do. In other words, I accept that the state have arrested the right guy, and before they've even put him on trial, he's guilty. Now, I presented that in a video, and of all things, Gundrum was on MAM. That's when he said the thing about, he was the guy that was going to give Steve the 450,000. His daughter, now he's become this judge for the District 2 of the Court of Appeals. His daughter came on and said, look, don't be hard on my dad. Don't criticize my dad. He, like everybody else at the time, was taken in by things like Sweaty's press conference, the fact that they'd found all this evidence. I'm prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt. Hell, even Kathleen Zellner thought that Steve was guilty until Making a Murderer came out. You can see why people, they just look at the so-called evidence and say, oh, well, that's not a difficult one, or it's not difficult to see how they found him guilty, or that's going to be a hell of a difficult one to get off of that one because of all the evidence. Okay, so anyway, what we're waiting on now, I believe, is Kathleen Zellner within the next 40 days. I believe 20 days it's taken for the Judge Angela's decision to get back to the Court of Appeals, and now Kathleen Zellner will have another 40 days sooner, but just over a month's time. We should hopefully. Well, first of all, obviously, we'll get the motion from Kathleen Zellner. One wonders how long that's going to be. How many Eric Hosey and Travis videos are we going to watch in order to get through that lot? Good cure for insomnia. I'm only joking, Trav. Okay, we'll catch you later. Bye for now.